right, so this week's lesson is all about rhythm, and we're going to be talking about how to play all over the fretboard. So we're going to be looking at 3 different positions of the fretboard, and these are positions that are right out of the Cage system. And we're going to be using simple 2-note and 3-note chords. The 2-note chords are called Dyads, 3-note chords are called Triads. Some of these you'll already know, some of these might be new ideas for you. But the whole point of this is to give you ideas for things to play as a rhythm player so that you can play, first of all over the fretboard and really understand it. But secondly, you can do something that sounds a little more interesting than just sort of strumming a chord. And I know some of you struggle with chord playing, especially when you're using all 6 strings, if you're playing a bar chord or some of that. If that's you, you're going to really like these little simple 2-note and 3-note chords because they're easier to play, at least from a fretting perspective. Some of the rhythm part may be a little more challenging, but we're going to talk through all that over the course of 2 videos. So in this video, we're going to go through 2 of the 3 positions. If you'd like to join us in part 2 video where we go over the 3rd position, as well as download the tablature for this, and also the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos. I have a slower version as well, so that you can practice tying all this stuff together and practice it, playing it. You can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP553. All right, so this rhythmic style is called comping, when you're going like this. That kind of thing. It's a different style than if you were playing, full chords with strummy sound and the notes ringing out. The comping thing, and by the way, I had to look this up. Where does comping come from? It comes from accompanying. It's just a shortened version of accompanying. It's also thought of, maybe it comes from complementing. And it's kind of a combination of those two things, which are really kind of one and the same. You're accompanying a melody line or you're complementing a melody line. That's kind of what that style is for. And you're doing it in a rhythmic way. And so this is more common in more of a swing jazz kind of thing, but it spills into blues when you get into jump blues, and that's what this jam track that we're going to be playing over is. It's a jump blues. So as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at 3 positions of the fretboard. We're going to be doing this in the key of B. So it's a 1-4-5 blues in the key of B. So your chords are going to be, your 1 chord is a B, your 4 chord is an E, and then your 5 chord will be an F sharp, but we'll be playing them all over the fretboard. Let's listen to the first part one more time just to get that sound in your head, and then we'll talk about what's going on. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is this, right? And all I'm doing is I'm playing strings 4, 3, and 2 on the 4th fret. Now, ask yourself, why does that work over a B chord? Remember, I said the song's in the key of B. And you can pause the video and think about it for a minute if you want. But basically, if we're playing a B chord using the A shape, you've got that bar there, right? That triad is there. Or if you're playing a B chord using the G shape, and this is going back to the Cage system stuff, but you've got that triad that lives between those 2 positions. And so that's where this first little B chord is coming from that triad. Now, when I strummed it, I was thinking about all 3 strings. You could just do strings 2 and 3, and that would be totally fine. Or you could do strings 3 and 4. You don't have to play all 3 strings. And that's where this dyads come from. They're just taking 2 of the notes out of a chord, and you're playing them together. You could also call it a harmony. But when you were thinking about it like a chord rhythm like this, I think of it as a dyad. All right, so let's talk about one of the main strum patterns that's used throughout this, or the cadence of this thing. Now, I do break from this actually right at the beginning when I'm doing all those things. I'm sort of just picking those. That's really not a strum pattern per se. But there is a cadence through this whole thing, and I want to kind of talk through that. Just to give you the feel for it and how to kind of think about strumming this. So we're going to be barring here on this 4th fret and playing out of this triad with the left hand. And the right hand, I'm just going to play through it. I want you to watch my right hand and just notice the fact that it always stays in motion, even when I'm not playing anything. So here's sort of the vibe of this thing. So notice where the beats are. So this is how you count this out. You start with a muted downstroke, or you're not playing anything on the downstroke. And then you're going to do an upstroke on the and of one. So it's one and, so it's on the and of one, and it's an upstroke, one and then you go two and three. The three is a downstroke. So it's one and two and three. Now, before you do anything else, just try and get that. The and of one and the three. One and two and three. Just do that. One and two and three. Okay? That's kind of the first part of it. And the second part of it goes like this. One and two and three and four and. So it's the and of one, the and of two, and the and of three. Those are all upstrokes. Look at this. One and two and three and four and. So it's up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, right? All right, so let's put those two parts together. I'll try and do this slowly. Here we go. We have one and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and. And then I went like this. So that's just a little embellishment off this triad. So I came up to the 5th fret, 2nd string, and then I do a pull off. And then keep that triad there, or yeah, that triad, that bar. And then my pinky comes all the way up to the 7th fret, 2nd string to play that. And that's just think of those two notes. First of all, they're in the major scale. They're in the B major scale. But you can connect them back to this triad. And they're just little embellishments off of that. All right, so even if you get nothing else out of this lesson, take this one idea, this triad, and just play around with that and start using that in your rhythm playing. Now, that's just one idea out of lots and lots. There'd be 20 or more of these as we get into this. So that's the first one. All right, so the next thing that I played goes like this. Okay, so it goes down to the B and then the B7. So let's look at that. These are those dyads I was talking about, or harmonies. But it starts here with your middle finger on the 7th fret, 2nd string, and then my ring finger's on the 8th fret, 3rd string. And we're just gonna walk that shape down to here. Now, if you're interested in knowing what these little harmonies are and how they connect to this shape, I'm going to put a micro lesson up that I did a while ago on this very thing, showing you how you can connect from here. You can connect these harmonies to this triad, and then that walks you up to this. And so it walks you up to your B chord using the E shape. And you're connecting this shape to this shape using those little harmonies. It's really powerful stuff, and I use this all the time. This is one of my most used things in rhythm playing. And if you followed my lessons, you've seen this a million times. So from the beginning, we have, we walked it down, and then I did the B7. And so while I'm playing this triad, this little bar here on the 4th fret, ring finger comes up to the 6th fret, 4th string, and then does a stretch to the 7th fret, 4th string. While these two notes are held down on the 4th fret, which is strings 3 and 2. So it's like this. That's just another voicing for a 7 chord. Connect that in your mind to this shape, right? This little triad. You've got 2 of them from this. And we're going to cover both of these as we get into this. This one is like this. That's a 7 chord, dominant 7. So you put a string down on the 5th fret, 1st string, if we're playing a B. And then the other one is like this. So both of these are those flat 7 from your major scale that's worked into that chord. That's just 2 ways you can do it off of this shape. It's really powerful stuff though. When you're playing the blues, I mean, a lot of stuff happens from that. You can work these 7 chords into your lead playing as well. All right, so now the song goes to the 4 chord, which is our E chord. And I could have played an E down here or an E7, and that would have been fine. But I wanted to stay in the same neighborhood I was in, just to kind of, keep pushing these regions of the fretboard so that, it illuminates different voicings for you. So I played an E7 here. Now that's the same shape as your D7 chord. If you slide that up 2 frets, you're up in this area. But that's exactly where we were. Remember, we were playing our B here. There's the B7 or the B7. Here's the E7, which is our 4 chord. So I hope that gives you some idea and you go, oh, okay, so if I'm playing a blues here out of this triad, I've got my 4 chord right beside that. And then I can go back to my 1. So when I strum that, I just went like this. And to count that out, it's like 1 and, so it's on the and of 1, 1 and 2 and 3. So it's on the and of 1 and the 3. It's like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so then after that, the song goes back to the 1 chord, and I just went back to my triad right here for the B chord, but I put my pinky up here and hit this B note up on the 7th fret, 1st string. So in a way, to me, this is like, I know this is the G shape from the cage system, but it bridges your A shape with this little triad up to your E shape. And here's another little sidebar that'll make a lot of you very happy. Your major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. You're straddling that, pattern 1 of your major pentatonic scale. It's right there. So anyway, hopefully that just illuminated, a lot of light bulbs. You can go, oh, I can throw in some fill licks. Right? It's all there. And when you can start to connect it all, it's like, it'll just blow your mind. Okay, so we have back to the 1 chord. I hit the B like that, and then I came down and went. So I did the B, 2 of those, and then the B7. And I already showed you that B7. That's where you keep the bar, but then 5th fret, 1st string. Then we go to the 5 chord, which is our F sharp, and I played the same shape as I did for the E. I just slid it up 2 frets. It's still in the same neighborhood, so I thought that was fair game, right? So I just went up 2 frets, and then watch this. We're gonna keep, so when we play this, we've got our ring finger and our middle finger on the 6th fret, strings 1 and 3. We're gonna slide both of those fingers up to the 9th fret, strings 1 and 3. But then index finger goes down to the 7th fret, 2nd string. So you have that. That's just another voicing of your F sharp 7 chord. So this was an F sharp 7, and then this is an F sharp 7. Just another way to voice it. When you come up here, that's playing out of this shape, like your C7 looking shape. It's like the top part of that. So in your mind, if you want to use this voicing again as a 7 chord, there's my C shape. That's my F sharp chord using a C shape. And then right there, where I've got my middle finger, which is the F sharp note, I just put my index finger there, and then I've got my 7 chord like that. I can keep my index finger there and I play it like this. 2 different ways you can do it. Top part of it, bottom part of it. So we have, and then I go back to the B like this. And when I'm doing that, I'm barring the first 3 strings, just the first 3 strings on the 4th fret with my pinky up here on the 7th fret. So I'm just hitting really the top 3 strings, playing that triad. All right, so all of that was the first round of this blues. Now we're gonna come into the second part. And each time we go into a new part, I'm gonna shift into a new position. So now we're gonna play the same 3 chords, but we're gonna play them up here. We're gonna start here with the E shape. So, and it makes sense to do that, at least in my head, just because we just played this and my pinky was already there touching it. So it's easy for me just to shift my fingers into this new position. So now that's going to be our 1 chord. It's still a B chord, but we're going to be playing it using the E shape. Now we're not going to play the full chord. We're just going to play strings 1 and 2. This little, think of it like a dyad, little harmony. So strings 1 and 2 on the 7th fret. So I'm going to play that. Little embellishment off that by keeping that bar and then coming up to the 9th fret 2nd string. And all these things are little takeaways. If you're playing a blues and you're in this E shape, it doesn't matter what key you're in. You can reuse this stuff in any key. You can do this now. Right? It works as a rhythm, but it also works as a lead. You can work that into your lead playing. So I did that, and then I went like this and came up to the dominant 7. So that's my flat 7 of the B major scale. Same as down here. Same note, right? I'm just playing it up here on the 10th fret 2nd string. So I keep the bar on the 7th fret, strings 1 and 2. There's the little embellishment. And then I come, which would be the 6th of the chord. And then I come up to this 7 up here. So then we go to the 4 chord, and I play this. 2 notes. This is a little dyad. I could have played 3, but it sounded so good just playing these 2 notes. I'm going to show you something really cool you can do with this little shape. Let's get the shape down. Easy to play. So I use my ring finger on the 7th fret 3rd string, and then my index finger on the 6th fret 4th string. You could use different fingerings if you want, but I find this to be the easiest. And so that's my 4 chord, right? Now I want you to picture this, right? Or that. There's your C7 shape. That's my E7 chord. There's my E9 chord. But these 2 notes are the key notes that I'm pulling out of that to create that dyad for my 4 chord. Now I can slide those up. This is the cool part. I can slide those up to, or both, just 1 fret, and I'm back to my 1 chord. That's 2 notes from my B7 chord, right? Those 2 notes. So 4 chord, 1 chord. Now watch this. If I slide it up 1 more, that's 2 notes from my 5 chord. And then I slide it back down. There's my 4 chord and then my 1 chord. And the reason I'm making such a big deal out of this is you can take this little dyad, this little 2-note shape here, and you can play over each of your chords. You can go, here's your 1 chord. You can slide into it. Here's your 4 chord. Back to your 1 chord. You see what I'm talking about? It's so simple to do. Anyway, I wanted to just point that out. But I did use this for the 4 chord. Right? And then we go to the 1 chord. I slid it up, but I just accidentally did it, but I wanted to keep it in there. I kept that, but then I put my middle finger down on the 7th fret 2nd string. And again, these notes are just out of your B7 chord in that voicing, but I'm just playing that. And what's nice about that is, do you recognize that shape? It should look familiar. It's the same as your D chord. It's the same shape, that little triangle shape. If you play it here with your middle finger on the 2nd string, so in that case, we're on strings 2 and 4 on the 7th fret, and then ring fingers on the 8th fret 3rd string. You're playing a 7 chord voicing. So I just like that voicing because it's basically the D shape. You're just playing it, down a set of strings from where you normally would. So we had the 4 chord to the 1 chord. I slid into it like that. And then the song goes to the 5 chord, and I guess I did use this again now that I'm looking at the tab for this. So I went from the 1 chord, I just slide everything up, but I lift my middle finger, and I'm only playing strings 4 and 3, and that represents my F sharp chord. And then we get back to the 1 chord, and I play this. Little jazzier sounding, kind of a Western swing vibe because I'm playing a 6 chord. I'm playing a B6 chord. Here's the voicing, and this is how you make it. I'll put it up on the screen. It'll make it easier than me trying to call out each note. But I like to think of this chord as being kind of inside of my E shape, because I can just take my pinky and reposition it and just play the top 4 strings and have that 6 chord sound. You can always take a 6 chord, slide it down 2 frets and get a 9 chord of the same chord you were just playing. So if that's a B6, that's a B9. That's something else to think about. I didn't do it in this, but play around with it. Put the jam track on and go down and you'll hear it. You'll hear it, that 9 chord. So that's where I ended this, was with this 6 chord. And that's 2 of the positions. So we started down here with this triad and we built the whole thing off of that. And then we came up here to the E shape and played our 1, 4, 5 up here. Now I'm going to wrap up this part 1 video here. Come join us in part 2 where we'll go over the final position, which is the 3rd position. And also remember, as a premium member, you'd have access to tablature for everything in the MP3 jam tracks, which are in multiple tempos. There's a slower version of this if this is played too fast. You can start with a slower one and kind of work your way up to the fast one. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have learned something from this, leave a comment. Let me know. If you've been confused by anything or you're struggling with any of it, leave a comment on that and let me know as well. It's always helpful to see those, and it encourages me, and it also tells me what's working and what isn't. I always appreciate that. All right, we'll see you in part 2.